I'm Bob. I like coffee. I also like to tell stories. So here at the Bobcast Coffee, it's time for a coffee break. So take a coffee break with me and pour yourself a cup of your favorite Joe. By the time you're done with your coffee, you'll know something about me you really didn't need to know. But you'll have fun learning it. Just remember, my stories are true. For the most part.
Welcome back, Bobcast Coffee. We're looking at episode 78. 78, and as you can see, my buddy Dave is back, and we've got something special we're going to try to do today. So, as Dave has said, we're going to call this Things I Learned from My Dad. All right, so we're going to find out today. So, Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Easter was yesterday.
Had a great time. Had a homemade breakfast with my bride and just time together.
We had as many people as we could get over here from the family, and we had a crowded living room. Today, what did you learn from your dad? That is a great question. What did you learn? So I understand you got a list.
I do have a list because this is how my brain works. I'm a list guy. I think I learned that from the military. Just make a checklist and then go off your list.
Get the list done, and then
take a break,
and then you're done.
Yeah. So one day I just decided, what have I learned from my dad? You know, because we all learn something from our parents. You know,
True.
And then we grow and we learn, and more importantly, we apply what we learn. And that's what this session is about. So there's no specific order. It's not chronological. It's just whatever I thought of.
It's not the top 10. It's just
No.
It's just 10.
Is it 10?
Well, we're
10 or more.
we're guesstimating.
Anyhow, so basically, we'll start off with communicate often and regularly with those you love. It's time together. I remember years ago, and I might have been only one time, playing a game of hearts. You know, I just remember a table. I remember everybody around it. I remember not having a seat but standing, but there was communication. Everybody was together
Over a game.
Just a game. It's just
Because I've heard it said, always have a meal together. Every day, have a meal together. Play a game is another great way of doing that.
yeah. And I remember vividly, my dad and Joyce playing cards with my grandparents at their table. I thought that was the neatest thing. I think they were playing cards. I think I was on leave, and I might be batching things together, but I remember repairing my grandfather's kitchen faucet. They're playing cards. And
Wait, you know how to do things like that?
I was a plumber in the United States Air Force, so it was a long time ago. So if I was active duty, it was in the late 80s. And, but anyway, and that card game might have been prior to that, but I don't know, I might have been.
It fits.
That's how my brain works. Anyhow, so communication's important. Travel and see the United States. My dad has been to all 50 states. At least I was told that. And I'm thinking, okay, if you go to all 50 states, I'm trying to think, did he fly? Did he drive? I just remembered he did a lot of driving.
Well, we know he didn't drive to all 50 states.
Well, right. One of them, I think Alaska was the last one. I think Heather and I would put some money so that he could go, like $300 or something like that, so he could go to Alaska. And there was a lot of people that were able to go. We couldn't go because it was just the timing of the event. And but yeah, that one, yeah, there was a cruise to Alaska.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure he's been to Hawaii, so you got to fly to Hawaii.
When was this trip that your dad took? When was that?
Oh gosh, it was, geez, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. It was celebrating I think his 80th birthday,
Fun.
if I remember correctly. So that was a while. Yeah, he's 86 now. He's outlived his dad. Something.
It is something. All right.
Okay, that improves my chances of longevity.
My wife says it's air conditioning.
Oh yeah, that helps. Another thing I learned from my dad is to walk regularly. I remember years ago that I actually walked with him in a mall. It was cold in Ohio. It's cold all the time, seems like. That's where the malls would open early and folks would walk around, get their legs in condition. And I didn't know this, but the calf is kind of like the calf of the legs pumps that blood and helps with your circulation system. I had a nurse explain that to me. So it's good to walk. And that could lead to my dad's longevity.
Yeah, now you're telling me I got to get up and exercise
I
again.
wish you would. I kind of like it. Anyhow, stay active. My dad did a lot of yard work. He's very proud of that. And just always getting that vitamin D, sunlight. I think that's something that's important. I learned from him. Be outside. I enjoy yard work.
Do you think the two of those, I mean, it makes sense in my brain. You walk, you keep your body accustomed to movement. Mm-hmm. Now you can be more active.
I believe that there is a correlation. See, my dad had a gym membership and he used it one time. I visited him. That's a few years ago. I remember spending 5 hours with my dad. He said, "Bring your gym clothes." Boy. Luckily, in those days, I was training for a Philmont Trek, which is 100 miles.
I remember those days.
So I got, while my dad was doing all the different exercises he was doing, I was just on the treadmill the whole time. And I got it as steep as I could go. So basically, I was on the steepest climb. And so the whole time I was on the treadmill, I was wishing my dad would hurry up. Because it was one heck of a workout. But that's one of the things I learned from my dad is stay physically in shape as best you can.
So we just had 3 different mindsets all on keeping yourself physically fit and active.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe they're 86. Maybe there's a secret to that.
Well, here's the deal. I want to live to at least 86. This is, figured it out mathematically. All right. So I did 26 years in the military. Okay. I want to double dip. But guess what? I don't get to double dip till October of this year. So when I turn 60, I start collecting my second batch of money. Well, if I want to double dip, I got to live 26 more years. So 60 plus 26 is 86 years. So I got to live as long as my dad, at least.
See,
Get my money's worth out of Uncle Sam.
this is why math is bad. All right. So make your 86.
86.
Double dip, at least for a while.
Yep. Another thing I learned from my dad is to work as long as you can and, study your profession and know it so well that you're still relevant.
Don't get timed out.
Don't get timed out. Just keep current. Do your continuous education.
How long did he stay in his profession?
I think I want to say he kept his license going mid-80s, if not still today, But very inspiring. Being involved actively in the scouting program. He was my scoutmaster growing up. In fact, he gave me his scoutmaster rimmed hat, his Smokey the Bear hat,
Oh,
his campaign hat, if you will. And so I had it reformed and repressed, and I actually wore it on several occasions. Still have it.
that's very cool.
So I'm active in scouting to this day. I've been in over 25 years as an active scouter. I train scoutmasters now. I have. I've been a course director for Introduction to Outdoor Leadership Skills 4 different times over the years.
They ever going to tap you for wood badge?
No, I've actually maxed out. Turns out you're only allowed 5 courses, and then you gotta let someone else do it. So I did troop guide, assistant quartermaster, ASM of logistics, ASM of program, and senior patrol leader.
Nice.
So all that means is I know how to do one, and I can run one, but I'm overqualified.
You're overqualified now. Well, that is cool. I only did the assistant quartermaster. That's
That
the
was
only.
the best one.
That was fun.
I remember I had a rule, hard fast rule, never fill my coffee mug more than an eighth full because I was running so much. I didn't want to spill any coffee. No coffee foul.
It's called a lid.
They didn't have lids until you
Yeah.
came around.
Put
came
that
up with
cork
the
in.
cork.
The cork in, yeah. That was so I could run.
Right. That's where that idea came from. It's nice. These are good memories.
What's next? What's
All
next?
right. Taught me how to suck a raw egg. So basically, you put a hole in each end, and it was basically physics. And then, because it had a vent.
Yeah.
So he was teaching me physics, which I use every day as a plumber.
Well, hopefully
I don't
not
suck
with raw
any eggs. I don't suck any raw eggs. Haven't done that.
You did it once.
I don't know how many times I did it, but enough. Let's see. The importance of picking the right girl as your bride.
This is probably a very, very important.
My dad's been married twice. I've been married twice. The second one, the best.
When you're equally yoked,
Oh,
it makes a difference. Does it make it smooth? No. Does it stop all fights? No.
Mm.
Does it, are there bumps in the road? Absolutely. But when you're equally yoked, wherever that bump hits, you come down together.
yeah. Well, like about my gal, she's got my back. If anybody is disrespectful toward me or her or our children, she takes it pretty seriously. I don't know if that's because she's part Cherokee, part German, part Scotch-Irish, And I actually shared this during my military retirement ceremony. I was asked, Sergeant Lazeski, what are you going to do when you retire? I said, I'm going to spend a lot of time with that gal. And let me tell you about her. It's part Cherokee, part German, part Scotch-Irish. That means on any given day, I could be scalped, beat up, or cussed out, or all three. And I looked in the audience. She was on the front row. She was smiling. She said, that's me. But my commander, his jaw dropped, and he couldn't believe I said that on a stage full of, there was 50 people in the audience. Anyhow, very guarded, very protective of me.
I guess, but there's an attitude toward that.
Yeah.
If you are that kind of person, right? You're not ashamed of it.
Mm. Mm-mm.
Anybody that comes after your wife, anybody comes after my wife, what's our reaction? And is it fair to say that our wives aren't allowed to have the same reaction back? I'm not that brave of a man.
Well, here's the deal. So I was historically, if my wife got herself in a fix, she got in it, she's got to get out of it. And then, but as a man, I'm responsible to protect her and keep her alive. And she'll tell you that I've saved her life 4+ times. Seriously, literally.
Yeah.
That's why I'm taking that first aid wilderness training this next weekend. something could happen. I got to save her life again.
You know, being prepared for it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it sure does make when it does happen
Yeah.
a little bit better.
I've saved a customer's life using first aid. Yeah, I saw they came into the garage. I was working on the water heater, and they just had this pale look about them. And I know it was an elderly person. They'd been working outside, and I knew the signs that she was having a heat stroke. So I had her sit down. I called out, "Hey, is everybody else here?" And their daughter came. Their daughter was in her 60s. So, it was an
Yeah.
older lady. And I said, "Has your mom ever had a heat stroke before?" She goes, "Yes." And I said, "Well, then that we know that that's going to happen easier in the
Yeah.
future." So we cooled her off. We got some cold rags. We called EMS, had them on the way. I took her pulse, wrote it down, her temperature, wrote it down. So when they got here, I knew they were going to ask those questions, having had the training. And they said we'd done all the right things, and sure enough, they hauled her off. And they gave me the credit card number, and told me how to lock the garage when I left. They were good customers.
Good go.
As far as I know, she made it.
But going back
Back.
to your list,
Yes.
how many of the parts that we've already covered did you just use
Well-
of things? But I mean,
Scouting. So statistically, statistically, if you're in scouting, whether you make Eagle or not, you're going to save someone's life. I think 1 in 4 scouts are going to save someone's life just from the training. So that's right. That's good tie-in, actually.
absolutely.
And then
And wait, and who got you into scouting?
my dad. Yeah, sure did. And so another thing I learned from my dad is own your own business so that you can afford to do the things that you want to do.
What was his business?
He was a dentist.
He had his own office, his own staff.
Yes.
He had, this is what he
Literally.
did.
That's what he did, and it inspired me. I remember I was 5 years old, and I didn't know much of anything. 5 years old, I just knew I wanted to own my own business, and I just simply said, there's a lot next door to my dad's dental office. I said, I'm going to own my own business. I'm going to have it right there. Not realizing that didn't happen, the right there part, but I did own my own business. I still do. I have a spiritual life. My dad was, things like, it's not what you're taught, it's what I caught from my dad. That's
Ooh, I like that.
kind of the things that I learned. I remember him counting up the ages, of all the people starting from Adam. Okay, if Adam lived to be this long, and then his sons lived to be this long, he started reverse engineering how old the planet was based on that, and it came to like 4,000 something years. And I was just inspired.
But there we go with math again.
Math? I used math every day in plumbing. Math, not meth, Bob. Math.
Oh,
Anyway.
okay. That makes better sense.
But, how's that tied to spiritual life? I don't know. There's a book called Numbers. There's scripture references. There's numbers all through the Bible, significant numbers, But, no, these are things I learned from my dad. It's just, it's very devout Catholic, and I still like incense and candles, from that influence. It's interesting. I just remember my grandfather making sure for Christmas Eve we were all at his house and we all went to Mass as an entire family.
Yeah.
I don't know how many pews we took over in that Catholic church, but it's like you look around, front pew, the middle pew, like I was surrounded by family. Yeah, so it's kind of neat. And I remember when I joined the service and I moved away, and I started going to a different church, a different faith system, if you will. My grandfather actually pulled me aside and he said he admired me for that. He couldn't. It was tied to his, community. You had a certain faith. to make it in whatever job you had, because everybody was that big. So there was,
If you wavered, then maybe support.
it would
the
affect,
waiver.
yeah, the support of the waiver. And that's the impression I got. So I get to carry that with me, that my grandfather, that's pretty bold. It kind of stuck with me. But anyhow, be involved in the community. I mean, my dad was. I mean, he helped build the second story of the Catholic school. I remember that. I remember hearing the stories. And, he was always part of, an organization for the dentists. He was president, I don't know how many times. He was just engaged, with his dental community and with his church community and family.
I'm thinking, so stay outside of yourself.
Right.
Is what he's doing. He's
Be a giver.
He's wants to be involved in his religion,
Right.
and he wants to be involved in the community. How much time does that leave for you to sit there and soak in on yourself? You got family, you got your job, you got your religion, you got your community. I don't hear a lot
I
of.
was not sitting still a
Yeah.
lot.
Oh yeah, and then, he was at the gym, so.
Right. And stay current in your trade. I was telling you, he's always, engaged and, always staying current with his profession. Drink lots of water. I remember as a kid, he had this big old glass, I don't know, 12, 16 ounces. It was clear and it had these little bubbles like a red, white, all the way around this glass. And I thought, that's the biggest glass. I don't know how he can drink all that at one time. I don't know how he did, but
And now people walk around with these thermoses of 87.
my dad's been doing that since I was a kid.
Trendsetter.
Right. Spend time outside. Again, that's a recurring theme. Get that vitamin D. Camping. I remember growing up playing tennis with the old time wooden tennis rackets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Have a dog. His dad had a dog, and my dad has a dog. I've got 5 dogs, so I must be gonna live forever. I got a dog. All these dogs. 2 of the dogs like me. 3 of them now. I'll tuck one dog into it. Take care of your vehicles and make them last. So I remember my dad having a 1982 Chevy Suburban truck. It was blue. And I remember it rusted and then bodywork and painted again. And I don't know how many times that thing's been painted, but I do remember it had over 200,000 miles on it. And
Which leads me to the question, because sitting out in front of the house right now is a certain plumber's plumbing truck. How many miles does that have on it?
Now let me tell you about that. It's a 2005 Ford E350 van front service body vehicle, right? I bought that brand new, my first brand new vehicle I ever bought in my life. It has 369,000 miles on it that I put on it. By the end of this week, it'll have 370,000 miles on it. Yeah, it's had a rebuilt transmission. Yeah, I've done some body work to it. Yeah, I've changed tires and rebuilt transmissions and redone front ends, and I just had a new battery put in it. Remember how the battery died pretty easily when I left the lights on last time I was here?
Yeah.
It doesn't do that anymore.
No.
Anyway, so I learned that from my dad. Take care of what you got. In fact, one of the phrases I learned, not from my dad, but reminds me of my dad, is use it up, wear it out, fix it up, or do it without. And that's a Depression era.
And so your dad is 86.
He was
So
born
he
in
was
39.
born 39. So he was born in the 30s. So he was raised
Right,
by the Depression survivors.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And let's see. When getting into traffic, pull in front of a new car, they'll stop. I learned that when I was driving.
In college, my brother had a 66 Bonneville.
Ooh.
And it was not pretty. And we used to take that to go anytime we had to go to concerts or big events or something like that. We would drive it because when we needed to leave, you fire that up, no muffler. So it's just this loud ba ba ba, and it was like the parting of the seas in front of you. So yes, if you pull in front of the new car, they want to get away from you. But if you have the Deathmobile, people will get out of your way too.
Yeah,
So.
people move out of the way of a plumbing truck. So I think, in my mind, I'm thinking they don't want to get hit by a plumbing truck because the crap will get all over them. So they get out of the way. Learn how to swim. I learned how to swim from my dad. We'd have competition to see who could swim the longest underwater. He'd always win. So speaking of swimming, I went to sea base, and one of the things is I had to pass the BSA swim test. Same one all the boys had to pass.
Yep.
That means I had to do 4 laps. And halfway through, well, about 1.5 in, I'm thinking, what the heck was I thinking? I'm the oldest guy in this swimming pool. And this was 2 years ago, so I was 56, 57. And I'm the oldest guy, and I'm swimming. And I thought, I just have to keep going. And I did. And I passed the swim test.
Well, you don't want your dad at 86 to get out there and
Oh,
do better.
no. He probably could. So I learned the importance of learning how to swim. And have a garden. Eat fresh vegetables.
Oh, so you're talking vegetable garden.
Vegetable garden. And learn to cook. I think he tried to teach me how to cook one time. This was a long time ago. This is back when I think I was in charge of stirring the chili. And I wasn't good at that. And we burnt the chili. I say we, just me. So that began my cooking career. I suppose I could burn water too if I really tried. I could. Not a good cook, but I like the idea of cooking. Manage your money well so you can do the things you want to do.
I needed to learn that lesson.
Do not tolerate any form of disrespect, perceived or real. I learned that from my dad.
So the perceived part of me, get the male guy part, right? Guilt by association.
Oh yeah.
Even if you're not guilty, if you are perceived as being guilty, you're just as guilty as if you didn't.
Right.
So the insults, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, because we're both in the military, and you roll with them.
You roll with it. But if you were to, and I have to admit, he's right. Even if it was just a perceived insult to my kids or my wife, it's a whole different game.
Oh yeah.
It is a whole different game.
Yeah, I remember one time I was retiring from the military, and I had a tech sergeant in charge of sending out all the invites, and I gave him a list of everything. And one of them, I didn't really pay close attention. I did not put my stepmom's name on there. It was just Mr. Lazeski. I didn't put Mr. and Mrs. And I didn't catch it.
Mm-hmm.
I just quickly, wrote all these names out. And it went out, and that offended my dad because it was perceived that I was being disrespectful towards his wife. And for whatever reason, they thought Heather did that. She did not.
No.
But anyhow, I got a call from my dad. He called me out on it, and he said, I don't want to talk about it. And so I never got to tell him it wasn't Heather. It was the tech sergeant.
It was a tech sergeant.
But anyway, that was years ago, water under the bridge. But I learned that I need to take responsibility for what part I played in any disrespect.
So, in this particular situation, whose name is on the bottom line? This is a very military statement. Whose name is on the bottom line?
It's all Sergeant Lazeski's fault.
Yeah. So, was it your hand that actually made the mistake?
No, but ultimately it's me.
It's you.
I own it.
Yeah.
In fact, one thing I've always looked at, if somebody makes an excuse or does something and they don't own it, I don't like them. Family unity is important.
Yeah.
Take care of your own. That's what I've learned. And I do. I take care of my wife, take care of my immediate family. That is my top priority.
Top priority. So, you got kids out of the house. All right? They're all moving off doing their own thing.
They are.
I got my kids are out, off doing their own thing. Am I still concerned about them? Absolutely.
100%.
But I have to let go because they now need to take responsibility themselves.
Exactly.
And I believe we can cause just as much trouble being too hands-on. I think that does present a problem.
Yep. Of my 5 boys, 3 of them, they're so independent, I hadn't heard from them for a while, which is fine. I got 2 of them, one at home, Jonathan, guess what? I'm working in the garage, he stops, tells me about his day. I really like that.
Yeah.
DJ, I can call him, even though he's active duty in the Navy. When he gets a break, he calls me. We talk. In fact, we're going to see him the end of the month. We're going to get to tour the nuclear submarine that he's on.
That's going to be, from a claustrophobic's point of view, that's still real cool.
I mean, how many people get to tour an active submarine? Really? I remember one. It's not on my list, but it comes to mind right now. When I was a poor airman, didn't have a lot of money, but I had time. My dad and Joyce would send me a credit card in the mail so I would have gas to get there and back. And I appreciate that about my dad. He's very generous, and I believe he still is, And so it taught me to be generous. My cool. Children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, and I wrote this down, and it has a lot to do with faith too. The importance of applying the Our Father in everything you do. And so, the part of the Our Father that I've been, because I say it weekly for sure, minimum. I try to every day, but I'm not good at it. I try to have my time with the Lord, daily. I did this morning. And then, in fact, during Lent, and this is something I learned just from reading, and I didn't know that we might have shared this about Joseph of Arimathea, but he was a silent disciple. He was the one that carried the cross, to help Jesus out. And you're thinking, why would Jesus need help? Well, because he had a physical body, right? Well, anyway, he was the silent 12th disciple. And then how does this relate to the Our Father? I don't know, but it made me think of that.
Yeah.
Part of the Our Father that I am doing my best to apply is the part where it says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. That's hard. That's hard to do.
It is very hard.
And part of that is making amends. How do you make amends? This is how I do it. Just so gratitude. I'm thankful for the time I had with my dad.
Is it easy to always pray for the others?
It's not easy.
Those that trespass against us.
I light candles, like for my dad. I hadn't really talked to him a whole lot lately, and that's my choice. I just need some time. But I would, it's his birthday, I'd light a candle, say a prayer, Love my dad. Always will. We haven't seen eye to eye. We think differently. He had different education than what I did, But I learned a lot from him. And that's the legacy that I want to carry on that's the good things I learned.
Think about your two careers. They're very similar. You're making things that aren't working work again. Yeah, plumbing and water and houses and stuff like that, that's different than teeth. But the concept's still the same.
Right.
If it's not working, it's causing major problems to people. And you're making them work.
Yeah. I learned a lot from my dad.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing this podcast.
That
To
is.
show gratitude and things I learned from my dad.
Well, I appreciate the list because it makes you think. This is the Dave list. It's not the Bob list, but it makes Bob think. Hopefully it'll make other people think out there too.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, my coffee's almost done. Your coffee is gone.
I got one little drop.
All right. So we're going to say, make a list. See what your dad did for you. And I'm going to say, get back to work.
Back to work.
And a quick note, please remember, if you're enjoying any of these stories, please hit the like button. Also, you can subscribe, drop us a note, hit any of those buttons out there that you like to hit, and have a great day.